you got to build your life around what your goal is.
I just don't eat.
Yeah, he doesn't eat. He does a lot of intermittent fasting. Have you ever tried that before?
Yes, I've tried it, and it was tough to stick with it.
Have you done diets before where you eat like a little bit lower carbohydrate?
That's what I'm doing right now. Definitely less of that. And the key is just having that food around me. If I have it around me, I do pretty well. If I don't, man, like I'm not as willpowered as I want to think when there's not food there and I have to go buy food. That's
you can text me anytime you want, and we can go back and forth, and I can kind of walk you through, like, you know, there's always options. There's almost always options. It just kind of doesn't seem like there are, because all the delicious foods are the ones that are in the front of our mind, and we're not really noticing that you can actually go through In-N-Out Burger and get a Flying Dutchman and get the burger without the bun. And I mean, there's always some options. But what I'll tell you is that a ketogenic diet, not even necessarily super keto, but like a ketogenic style diet and intermittent fasting, they tend to go well together.
And low carbohydrate.
And a low carbohydrate diet. One of the things that is helpful and what helps make a ketogenic diet work really well is that it works a little bit like fasting. So it's going to assist you and allow you to become a little bit more comfortable with hunger. You'll hear people sometimes say, "Oh, I had, some scrambled eggs this morning with some cheese on it, and I didn't eat again until 2:00, something like that." And so the two tend to go hand in hand. And even as Nsima is pointing out, even just like low carbohydrate, where you're not necessarily trying to eat like tons of fat, because the keto diet, while it is pretty cool, it can be a little weird at times.
Did you two have a struggle when you first started affecting your diet, or was it never really something?
Oh no, it sucked. Trying to do fasting, we both thought it was stupid.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable for like the first few months, because you're used to eating breakfast, you're used to eating every few hours. But when you learn how to use certain tools like caffeine, electrolytes are extremely beneficial. One thing you'll find is, like, if you're not hydrated, you'll just usually drink a lot of water. But if you're electrolyte deficient, meaning you don't have like sodium, magnesium, potassium like we have in those element packets, you'll feel hungrier even though you're not actually hungry. You're actually just,
because your body's telling you, I need this nutrient, and it's telling you through you're hungry.
You might even crave like sweets and stuff. Yeah, you get all kinds of weird cravings. That was actually really good, by the way, that chocolate mint.
It was, surprisingly.
I don't like mint. I don't think you like mint.
I'm not a mint fan either. But for somebody like you, like the reason why I think fasting works so well for us also is because, like, we're always like busy. You have so much work during your day. Like for me, it got to a point where I don't even think about food until I'm finally done working. I'm like, oh, I'm actually hungry. Okay. And so we also have vertical meals. These are like, instead of going and getting something normal at fast food, I will sometimes go to In-N-Out and get some Flying Dutchman, which is just like, again, patties and cheese. Delicious. It's fucking amazing. So but I'll if I'm really hungry, I'll have vertical meals right there. So like I don't end up making
just a meal prep company.
Yeah.
Well, the meal that I was eating when you walked in, that was a breakfast scramble from Vertical Meals. I forgot the amount of calories, but it had 32 grams of protein, and it tastes phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And there's just a lot of little things, just making sure you have like protein on hand, you know what I mean, or something, and always an option if you get really fucking hungry. But
you're a big guy, and so the hardest thing is to try to, how the fuck do we manage your hunger? How do we manage, and you mentioned you were heavier just a couple months ago. It's like, how do we manage whatever body weight you were at then? How do we kind of continuously work on that? Because even if you get yourself down to, let's say, like 200 pounds or something like that, or 220 pounds, your body's still going to kind of remember how hungry you were previously. It's like, that's going to continue on for a while.
That's a good point.
I used to be 330 pounds. And so like, I'm still kind of fighting off that fat bastard. I could weigh 270 by the end of the year, I think, if I
wait 270 in 6 weeks if you wanted to.
Yeah. I think, it wouldn't take very long. I'll just start swelling up.
Do it.
Well, it sounds like you guys have really embraced what I was talking about earlier, where you got to build your life around what your goal is.
Power Project family, if you watch and listen to this podcast, my assumption is that you're probably the kind of guy or girl who doesn't just like to wear your gym clothes in the gym. But listen up, you can't be wearing those and one shorts at a wedding, okay, buddy? You can't do that. That's why we've partnered with Viore Clothing, because not only are their clothes suitable for the gym so you can have the most comfortable and amazing workouts, but you can also wear them to the store, to the wedding, to dinner, anywhere, and you're just going to be looking so good. Andrew, how can the people get it?
Yes, step your game up right now. Head over to viori.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project. And when you do, you'll receive 20% off your first order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast.
So you guys know this is the areas I get in trouble eating. This is what I have to do to make sure I work out. And now you've got all these cool tips that you figured out. That's what I would just want to encourage everyone.
I'm excited for you because with all the success that you have, it's all going to be fucking amplified when you can start to kind of master. You can start to kind of master your hunger and master your cravings, and you're just no longer so driven by it. Like it sucks, man, when it grabs you and you feel like you can't fucking do anything about it. But there's something nice about kind of inviting it in, being like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking fast the whole day. Bring it on. Like let's see what happens. And I've messed around with all kinds of different fasting. Sometimes you make the mistake of over fasting and then you end up binging, but you start to learn from it. You're like, okay, that makes me actually worse than I was without ever exploring it in the first place. But you'll tend to figure out a way to kind of like error correct over a period of time.
I really appreciate that, guys. That is what I love about these things is where, like finances has never been difficult for me. Even as a kid, I was saving birthday money, saving Christmas money. When I hear about people with gambling problems, it's just, I don't judge them because I don't understand that. Like, it's never been hard for me to want to gamble. But other areas like exercise and food, I've had periods where I was in very good shape and periods where I look like, the Michelin tire guy. It's terrible. Like, that consistency has been tricky. And when you guys are sharing advice and encouragement, and like you said, the ability to text you and reach out in an area that I'm weak, that builds a bond. Just where I want to be able to share my information that I have an area of strength with other people that may be weak. And that's another thing that, like, if you can get yourself around people that can help you in the areas that you're weak, man, it's just one of the best forms of brotherhood you could find.
Yeah, we understand. We fucking love food.
Yeah, no, I can eat a ton, but that's the thing that fasting has helped, honestly, like both of us with, is because I've had a voracious appetite. Like for the longest time for me, my thing was like, how can I actually stay lean without feeling like shit? Because whenever I would get kind of lean, I'd be like, I couldn't stay there for a long time. I'd just gain a lot of weight back because I couldn't stick to that. But because fasting has allowed me to become friends with hunger and not, now when I'm hungry, it's not really an uncomfortable thing anymore. It's not like, oh, I have to reach for food. I'm like, I can wait another few hours because I'm used to that feeling. Now it's like neither Mark or myself, we're not dieting. Like, we don't look at it as dieting. It's just super easy now. It's not something we even think about. So that happens over time.
It's kind of amazing you guys are able to keep the bulk that you do have if you're not eating all the time.
It's because we don't have any problem putting away food.
And like protein especially.
So when it's time to eat, we still eat. But yeah, there's something called just protein leveraging, and it's just very simple. Like if you just have protein as your main priority, your other functions of your diet can be like a little bit off. But for the most part, you want to still eat clean food, but having protein be a priority really tends to slow you down in your tracks a lot. So if you were to, if you were fasting for most of the day and then you ate a pound of ground beef, it's like, you still might be able to pack away some good food. And certainly if you were to switch to going from eating the ground beef to eating like Ben & Jerry's, you'd still crush the whole Ben & Jerry's because there's something called palate fatigue where you start to get tired of eating kind of the same thing. So if you just kept eating meat, you would probably tap out at some point. But you could literally eat that meat and eat the protein until you're just completely stuffed. And you can even wait another 30 minutes and you might be hungry again, say, I'm going to get a second helping. I'm going to get a third helping. It's not going to make a dent in your overall calories for the day. Unless the fat is like some crazy thing through the roof. So that's the way we kind of get away with it. I usually eat about 2 meals a day. Sometimes there might be like a third thing in there, like a protein shake or some fruit or something like that. Cause I have a sweet tooth. So if I don't cure the sweet tooth thing, then I end up rummaging through my pantry in the middle of the night. So that's not a good idea. So I usually try to mitigate that with protein shakes and fruit and cottage cheese and yogurt and just as many different things as I can throw at that motherfucker as possible. Otherwise, the beast will kind of come out and start to take over.
Well, it kind of sounds like when we were talking about my calendar and how if I put that thing in the calendar, nothing can really go wrong. They got to build around it. What you're almost like, that protein is the spot in your calendar that you're marking. Like if I'm hungry, I'm eating a bunch of this, and it limits how far you can even get into eating too many carbs or too much sugar because you're full. Is that
It's
the
extremely
idea?
satiating. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient. I mean, that's why when people do normal diets, they talk about, oh, add a lot of fiber and vegetables in because they want to eat a lot of like more carbohydrates. And fiber will bulk and fill your stomach up, but protein does kind of the same exact thing. It's you imagine trying to eat 5 hamburger patties.
Yeah.
You'll get pretty full, you know what I mean? But when you think of like some rice and eggs and whatever, like it's like think about eating a bunch of Chinese food. You can put down a fuck ton of Chinese food. You can put down a fuck ton of Chinese food, and you could just keep eating it and shoveling it down because it's a great mix of protein and some fat and some carbs, right? It's super easy to shovel down. So that's why, yeah, protein and fat and minimal carbs is kind of how I operate, and same with it.
But I like what you said is everyone knows you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, but who can do it, right? You're actually giving me a technique that makes it easier to do that, right? And like isn't it awesome that we have YouTube and social media now that you can talk to some of the most intelligent people that are the best at what they do in the world just by pulling something up on your phone and looking at it.
Oh, it's
right?
amazing.
Imagine living like, in the BC area where if you had one smart person in your village, you had to like freaking walk 3 days to find another village to hear a smart person talk.
Well, and they said some really smart shit back then too. It's unbelievable. They had like amazing philosophers and people knew tons about the stars and shit.
I was
And
just
it's
gonna
like,
say that.
it's like how the hell did we know anything
Yeah.
back then? We barely had like a round wheel. It's like shit, man. Unbelievable.
Hey, wait, before you go, you got this far. That means that you've enjoyed the heat that we're continuing to bring you. So listen, like the video, comment something down below. We'll reply back and subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you the heat. Seriously, do it. Love you. Bye.